Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cpac Executive Vice President Dan Schneider and Cpac Board Member Les Zellen.
Zellen, you've got friends out here.
I do indeed, and it looks like I have a lot of friends out here. I'm new to the board, and thank you, Dan, for letting me come up here, but I wanted to just thank everybody for coming. This is going to be a wonderful day. The day the president's here is always...
Which president? Who are you talking about?
The real president, of course.
Wait, the one who cut and run out of Afghanistan? That one?
No, not that one. Keep going.
Let's see, is it the one who's letting people just run across the border?
No.
Is it the president who declared and made true that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel?
That's the one.
That's the one.
And it's always an exciting day when the president's here, and this has been a great Cpac. I'm pretty new to Cpac. My wife and I have come to, I think, 5 in the last 3 years. And I got to tell you, this one is run so well. And I got to hand it to the staff that you guys are at the head of, that they've just done a terrific job.
Yeah, and her name is Macy Cochran, the Cpac.
Let's hear it for Macy.
Macy's amazing.
Anyway, I've been doing all the talking. You want to say anything?
Well, welcome again to the last day of Cpac. Of course, we've got a church service tomorrow that you're all welcome to attend. And you're going to get another email soon to push one of the biggest news items that comes out of Cpac every year, which is the Cpac straw poll. So if you haven't voted yet in the Cpac straw poll, you're going to get an email with a link. All you have to do is click on that link, and you'll be able to vote. What kind of questions do they ask? What's the big question in the Cpac straw poll?
Let me think. Maybe who do you want to run?
That's right. That's probably the biggest question. Who do you want to be the president of the United States in 2024? Yeah. And I'm sure that Joe Biden is going to get very, very few votes here.
I think so. I'd be surprised if he gets more than 0.
Yeah.
But I do have a request. There's a silent auction going on, and obviously you're welcome. We encourage everybody to bid. The announcement, I guess, is tonight at 6 o'clock while the president's speaking. But somebody's bidding against me for the painting, 161. Stop it. But I encourage you all to get involved in the silent auction. It's a great way to contribute to Cpac, even more than you already have, and get something in return.
Les, thank you for joining the board of directors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks. This is criminal justice reform done right. Please welcome, from the state of Georgia and host of the Doug Collins podcast, former Congressman Doug Collins.
Good morning, Cpac. How are we doing this morning?
Oh, wait. Did some of you stay out just a little bit too late? I mean, kidding. Are you kidding me? Cpac, Texas, you got Donald Trump coming tonight. You got the last day of Cpac. Are you ready to this morning? I tell you what I'm amazed at. You know, in the last few, can you believe it's been a little over 18 months of the Joe Biden presidency? How many of you feel like it's an eternity? We're trapped in the 7 levels of hell from Dante. But what I want to say is this, you know, when I see the programs and I see the policies being put out by this administration, it reminds me of the former press secretary for Joe Biden, Jen Psaki. I see we have some fans. One of the things, though, that I used to like about Jen Psaki, she always would come up and she would say, well, let me circle back with you on that. Let me circle back with you on that. I don't know about you, Texas, but I'm ready for us to circle back to a time in which we had a leader who actually led this country, who actually put America first, and that's what we need to be doing. That's where we are. I'm reminded of a time under a president who actually cared about people. I'm actually reminded of a time under Donald Trump when he reached out to everyone, no matter what they looked like, what their skin color was, what their background was, and he put this out there and he said, look, I believe in America first, and I believe that everybody has an opportunity to succeed. And when we look at criminal justice reform today, when we look at what George Soros is doing in your communities, another fan I see. I'm going to tell you right now, many of you are really engaged in thinking about 2024. You're engaged in the congressionals and Democratic and Republican races for Congress and others this year. But I'm going to warn you about something. You need to be aware of what's going on in your district attorney races, in your judges' races locally. You need to be aware locally. Don't just focus big, focus locally. Why? Because George Soros has spent $50 million corrupting our criminal justice system with a lie that says criminal justice is about letting people go. It's about not prosecuting crimes. And I'm here to tell you right now, when they stand up and say defund the police, they mean it. They would rather have a counselor show up at your doorstep than a police officer, and the criminals know it. That's not criminal justice reform, folks. That's not what the American Conservative Union, that's not what Cpac's about. That's not what, for many of us who fought with Donald Trump for things like the First Step Act, because we believe in people. You don't believe I'm serious about this. George Soros has spent this money, and you've gotten the folks like Mr. Gascon in Los Angeles, who, by the way, let me just say, if you're watching on TV, I hope you're up a little bit early. You're getting ready to be the next DA recalled by people who are tired of seeing George Soros try to run our DA system. How about Kimberly Fox from Chicago? Another George Soros recipient. I mean, understand something. When you're a prosecutor, your job, okay, I know this is tough, and I know for maybe liberals watching this morning, this may be hard for you to understand. When you are a prosecutor, your job is to prosecute crime. It is not for you to stand up and say, as the DA in Manhattan says, you know, aggravated assault, nah, not a felony anymore, that's a misdemeanor. Folks, that is corrupting what we need to do. So I just have a few things I want to share with you this morning. I know this is going to be common sense. It's only for Cpac, it's for those listening. Liberals, if you want to listen, I would encourage you, find a piece of paper, find a tablet, take notes. Because conservative criminal justice reform actually says that we keep our communities safe, number one. Understand something. They want to defund the police. I'm going to say something. All right, we're a small group here. Nobody else is watching. I want you to lean forward just a little bit. Lean forward. I got the first thing for conservative criminal justice reform. I see you up here. Here it is. It is fund the police. Stand up for them. They're the ones that keep us safe. They're the ones that are out there on the front line. When you need somebody, I'm going to tell you something. When I need somebody at my door, I don't want to call a counselor to say, hey, could you come talk him down? He looks a little agitated. Can you come talk to him? No, or her. I want a police officer who's there doing his job. And I don't know about you, Cpac, but it's time we stand up and support those officers around this room and around this country who do it every day. It's time they quit getting attacked. It's time we stand up for them, because that is who America is. But it's also taking in common sense. And this is what Donald Trump did. This is what we did as Republicans when we had the opportunity to pass things in states like Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and others, where we passed real criminal justice reform that made communities safer. Our police were given the ability to do what they need to do, and we actually prosecuted crime based on the crime and what was going on. Now, for some of you, you may be wondering, you hear all the liberals talk about, well, criminal justice reform is letting people out and lessening sentences and no bail and letting somebody who attacked my friend Lee Zeldin in New York, actually attacked him, was out of jail before Lee probably finished his speech. That's wrong. And what we need to understand is criminal justice reform is conservative. It is something that we can value because we can do things that others don't because conservatives think outside of the box. We actually use our brain as opposed to some of our liberal colleagues. And one of the things that we can look at is accountability courts. Why aren't we in as conservatives? Why aren't we in there taking care of those when they come into the system and they're addicted to drugs, they're addicted to alcohol, they have mental health issues? We're the ones that say, we're going to pay, you're going to have to pay for what you did, but we're going to make sure that when you come out of this system, that you're going to be better to go back to your families, your homes, and become a productive member of society. That's what conservatives believe. I'm tired of a system that simply says, throw them all in jail, let them all go. Look, understand something. As a conservative, you believe in a higher power that looks at you and says, and I'm going to tell you something interesting for today. There's no matter where you go from this room or anywhere else, you're not going to find anybody else that you look in the eyes that is not dearly beloved of God. And when you understand that, just as we've made mistakes, you've made mistakes, it's time for us to lift people up. Conservatives are about lifting people up. Let's find new ways that we can actually protect society and also protect those that maybe need a second chance, that maybe need somebody like Donald Trump who signed the First Step Act to say, you know, we're going to actually put people in this guy. We're going to make sure that the bad people are put away and they're not getting out. But we're going to give somebody who wants to have a chance at a second life, a chance at going back to their communities, a chance to go back to their families. That's what conservatism is all about. Liberals want to cancel you. Conservatives want to lift you up. That's what we need to be about. But one of the things is when you actually get into this, it's actually the stories of communities. It's actually understanding that for conservatives, we have to look at our communities differently. We're seeing the communities today that are torn apart by homes that are broken, fathers that are not there, moms that are struggling. We see communities right now that are racked with inflation that's going up, with all the things that are struggling in our society today. And what do we get from the liberal administration? What do we get from the Biden administration? We get a lot of just talk. They're good at that. How many of you have had the pleasure of eating the word salads of the Vice President or Joe Biden lately? I'm telling you what, I was on a show the other day and they said, well, it's like this salad dressing, and I just said this, I would rather have my salad dressing on real salad than salad dressing on my vice president who can't seem to put two sentences together. But when we look at this, when you go from Cpac, there's 2 or 3 things I want you to remember. The first is this, that all races matter. Not just people, but races on a ballot. It's not just the top. It's not just the middle. It is all the way down to your county commission, city councils, and yes, your school board races matter. Why do I say that? Because it is where the real work's getting done. Last year in Virginia, guess what? It was the school boards who arrogantly told parents, you're not a part of this society. You're not a part of talking to us. We know better than you. It is about prosecutors who are elected at a local level who are saying, I'm not going to prosecute crimes. I'm not going to keep our community safe. They are elected and they need you to stand up. That's the first step, is get involved all the way down the ticket. Be a part of this system. The other thing is this, is understand, and this is probably the biggest thing I want you to remember. Our founding fathers said that we were given life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness, not the guarantee of happiness. Liberals want you to believe that it is only the government that can make you happy. That the government is going to take care of you. The government will give you everything you need. I'm here to tell you this morning, how many of you believe that conservative ideas are the best ideas? How many of you believe, and if you believe they're the right ideas, do you believe that America is the last greatest hope for this world? If you believe that conservatism is the last greatest hope for the world, then you can no longer be silent. You can no longer go to communities of color, go to other places and disallow them. You've got to bring them in. And criminal justice reform is just one area that conservatives can look at a world that is hurting, a world that is dying, a world that is in need of leadership that you'll see on this stage later tonight. They need leaders like you to stand up back home. And when they see you stand up, they will see that conservatism is not about exclusion. Conservatism is about bringing people in and making our homes and our families families stronger. It's up to you, Cpac. Will you take the challenge? God bless you. We'll see you out there on the campaign trail.
예, 지금 더그 콜린스 의원의 이야기를 들으셨고요. 조지 소로스 검사들이 검사 일을 제대로 하지 않고 이 범죄를 기소하는 게 검사들 일인데 그거 제대로 하지 않는다. 제대로 된 형사 정의 개혁이라는 것은 보수적인 것이다. 뭐 이런 내용의 이야기들을 했습니다. 자, 다음 이야기도 들어보시도록 하겠습니다.
Patriots! And you guys over here, you're great. We are here at Cpac to celebrate our liberty. We are here to celebrate our democracy. And most important of all, we are here to celebrate our God-given rights. But our way of life is under attack. It's under attack in America, and it's under attack around the world. This is a moment of peril, and freedom needs heroes. And that's why the American Conservative Union is partnering with freedom fighters around the world. The first international Cpac was held in Tokyo in 2017, led by our good friend Jay Aiba of the Japanese Conservative Union. And since then, there have been international Cpacs in Australia, Korea, Brazil, Israel, and Hungary. Now, ACU was the first foreign organization to go to Hong Kong to help the democracy protesters there. In August 2017, Matt Schlapp, Dan Schneider, and Veronica Birkenstock literally stood in the streets with the young kids who wanted a freedom life. And because of Veronica, those communist stooges in Hong Kong know you don't mess with Texas. Because of Matt and Dan, the communist stooges in Hong Kong realized you do not mess with Kansans. You don't mess with Texans, you don't mess with Kansans, and sure as hell, you don't mess with Americans. Today, you're going to hear from three heroes from outside the United States, one from Japan, one from Mexico, and one from Hungary. Americans, we are a shining city on the hill. We protect and defend freedom, not just for ourselves, not just for our kids, but for free peoples everywhere. So God bless Americans, and God bless the free everywhere around the world, those who share our values. See you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman of the Japanese Conservative Union, Jay Aiba, accompanied by Matthew Noyes.
Hello, Cpac. Yeah, I'm from Japan. I'm Jay Aiba, Chairman of Japanese Conservative Union. Thank you. ここから日本語になります。
I'm going to speak in Japanese from now on, so I'll do the translating.
まずはじめに皆様にお礼を申し上げたいと思いま
예,
す。
지금은
First off, I want to thank everybody that's here.
J-CPAC의
今から
대표로서
約
이야기하는
1ヶ月
시간인데
前、皆様もよくご存知のトランプ大統領と非常に
좀 전에
力強い
골든창이
日米関係を築いてこられた
내용입니다.
日本でも
전 세계의
最長記録の
자,
就任記
지켜지는
録を
것이
持つ
중요하다라는
安倍晋
이야기하면서
三元首相が
2017년에
暗殺をされ
처음으로
ました。
CPAC의 해외 조직이
And as you all know,
J-CPAC
about a
일본에
month
처음
ago,
2017년에 생겼다고
a
했고요.
friend
그
to
이후로
President
호주,
Trump and a
한국,
great ally
브라질,
to the United
이스라엘,
States,
헝가리 등에서
our
이제
former
이
Prime
CPAC
Minister
조직이
Shinzo Abe
생겼다고
was
이야기합니다.
tragically assassinated.
참고로 좀 말씀드리면은 CPAC
日本で首相経験者が
CPAC은
暗殺をされるというのは実
보수주의자들의
に
전국적인
85年ぶりのことです。
연합단체입니다. 그러니까
This was actually
CPAC
the first time in 85 years that a prime minister or
최근
former
들어서
prime
굉장히
minister
중요한
has
의미를
been
가질 수밖에
assassinated
없는
in
게
Japan.
공화당의
それだけ
전당대회가
日本人
아니라
大きな
보수주의자들의
ショックを受けました
모임이라는
が
것이 상당히 중요한
トラ
의미를
ンプ
가지고
大
있는
統領をは
것이고요.
じめ
또 중요한
世
것이
界各国
그래도
の首相、
이
そして
운동이
ACU の議長
아메리카
マット・シュ
폴스
ラップも
운동을
本当に
생산해낸
心のこもっ
산실이
た
됐다라는
賞状をいただき
것에서 또한
皆
중요한
様方
역할을
から
하고
も
있고
温かい
현재
数
지금
々
미국
の
사회를
励ましのコメ
올바르게
ントをいただき
바로
ましたそのことを
돌이키기 위해서
心からお礼を申し上げます
중요하다라고
ありがとうござい
이야기하고
ました
있는 풀뿌리 운동. 그러니까 결국은 국민들이 움직여야 보수주의 국민들이 움직여 주어야 이 나라가 변할 수 있다라는 그 기초 풀뿌리 운동의 가장 광범위한 조직을 가지고 있고 가장 강력한 영향력을 가지고 있는 그런 단체이고 행사이기 때문에 이 CPAC이 상당한 의미를 가지고 있다 이렇게 이야기가 될 수 있겠습니다. 일단 일본 측 CPAC 조직의 이야기 계속 들으시겠습니다.
非常に大きな悲しみに包まれましたしこの Cpac に参りましても多くのアメリカの友人たちから安倍さんがいなくなってこれから日本はどうなるんだい日米関係はどうなるんだい日本の未来はどうなるんだいといろんな方から頻繁に聞かれます
So coming here to Cpac, all of my U.S. friends have been asking me the same question. What is Japan going to look like going forward? What is conservatism in Japan going to look like going forward? And what are U.S.-Japan relationships going to look like going forward?
で私はこう皆さんに今お答えしています確かに大きな悲しみに包まれましたしかしこのまま泣いて暮らしているわけにも落ち込んでいるわけにもいきません世界は大きく動いているからです
So although this is sad, we can't be overcome by sadness because the fact is that the world is moving on and there's opportunities going forward. So we need to keep our eyes going forward as well.
安倍首相がいなくなったことによって日本には大きな責任感と若い力の目覚めこれが今生まれてきています
So in Japan, this tragedy, though it was tragic, it has really spurred a new growth of new leaders in Japan. Young people are getting involved in politics. People are waking up to the reality of the necessity to be involved in the political process.
皆様方アメリカの保守の仲間がトランプ大統領が2020年に信じられない結果によって大統領じゃなくなったことによって多くの方々がより一層目覚めたように日本人も目覚めたんです
So similar to how after the 2020 election, a lot of Americans felt energized to be more involved, a similar thing is happening now in Japan in the wake of this tragedy.
私はそこで力強くお約束します日本はこれから今まで以上に決断する日本そして責任を取る日本となりアメリカにとって力強い一層の友人となることを今皆様方にお約束します
So I'd like to make a promise to all of you here on behalf of Japan. Going forward, Japan will stand strong, it will be more self-reliant, and it will be the best friend the United States has ever had. That's a promise.
Thank you. Thank you. ありがとうございます。振り返って今日本もこうした内なる敵にやられるという事態に遭遇しましたがアメリカの皆さんは 今毎日その内なる見えない敵と戦っておられる。
So Japan is also fighting against forces that are really trying to destroy it, and you all in America are facing similar threats to your liberty, to your country.
それは例えば BLM という暴力であり、あるいはキャンセルカルチャーという信じられない攻撃であり、ビッグテックによるさまざまな検閲、これと皆さんは全力で戦っておられます。
So I know that all of you in the United States, you're fighting a lot of different foes right now. The BLM, essentially violent organization, cancel culture, big tech controlling the public speech.
これはアメリカの皆さんだけの問題でなく、日本の我々にとっても世界の保守派にとっても深刻な問題です。
And this is a serious problem, not just for you here in America. It's a problem for the entire world, especially conservatives around the world.
Yes, yes, yes. そこで我々は日本の仲間として何ができるかを真剣に考えた結果、日本人が持っている技術の一部であるブロックチェーンとか、あるいはゲームを通じて培った仮想空間においてさまざまな言論空間を作る、こうした皆様も聞いたことがあるメタバースというプラットフォームを今 ACU とともに開発し、皆様方に提供しようとしております。
So as a friend to America, I've been really thinking about how can we help Americans make their country better. And one thing that Japan possesses is fantastic technology. We have blockchain technology, we have experience with video games, creating virtual spaces, and right now something that I'm personally working on with the American Conservative Union is creating a virtual space known as the metaverse for the next generation.
Thank you. 私のスピーチ終わって外出られたら、正面玄関皆さん出られたら真正面にメタバースのブースがありますので、ぜひそこで試していただきたいんですけれども、これはまだ実験段階です。もっともっとブラッシュアップして、これから激動の時代になった時、私たち今年になってから信じられないことが起きました。戦争が起きたり、あるいはさっき友人のゴードン・チャンが言ってたように、香港で弾圧運動が起きた時、実は活躍したのがこのメタバースのプラットフォームだったんです。
So our booth is actually, when you walk out of here, it'll be right in front of you if you want to check out. It's still at the development level, so it's a demonstration. But this is something that's going to be very widely used in the future, and we need to make sure conservatives participate in that. And this is, you may not know this, but the metaverse was actually Hong Kong's last line of free speech. A video game, which is like the metaverse, was something that they used when the Chinese Communist Party cracked down on their speech.
ありがとうございます。こうした絶対に検閲を受けないけれども世界中の人々がつながれる自由な言論空間ができれば、この Cpac がアメリカ、日本、そして僕たちの仲間であるこの後のハンガリーとかメキシコとかオーストラリアとかイスラエルとか、あるいはヨーロッパ圏内で全ての保守の仲間が連帯感を持って一致団結できる、そうした世界が出来上がると私は信じています。
So I do believe that in the future we will have a platform that is free of censorship, something that can connect liberty-loving folks from all around the world, a true free true free speech space, one that will unite Japan, the US, Hungary, Mexico, Israel, all of our friends from around the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 皆様も覚えておいでのように、ビッグテックが2020年悪夢のような検閲とか、あるいは削除を通じて私たち保守派の選挙運動を攻撃しました。
So as you all know, big tech has been at it for a while, especially in 2022 when they suppressed certain information, they deleted news stories that didn't fit their narrative, they really shut down our side of the conversation.
もう二度と同じような敗北を絶対に私たちは味わってはいけない。これから保守の反撃が始まります。
So we cannot be in the same position down the road. It's really time for conservatives to step up and fight back against big tech.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。こうした仮想空間ももちろんなんですけれども、今この AC を中心として、さっきゴードンちゃんが言っていました、日本でもアメリカでも、日本でも韓国でもハンガリーでもイスラエルでもブラジルでもメキシコでもオーストラリアでも、今どんどん大きな星の輪が具体的に広がろうとしています。このインターナショナル Cpac という場を通じてです。
And as you all know, we are working with ACU to continue to spread the Cpac message all around the world. The US, Japan, Australia, Korea, Brazil, Mexico, Hungary, Israel, to all of our friends in all these freedom-loving countries.
こうして保守のさまざまな力強い組織が全世界にできれば、私は今何の世界の平和と繁栄の役にも立たない国連なんかいらないんじゃないかというすら思っています。
I think that if we conservatives gather on the grassroots level and connect with conservatives from other countries, we probably won't need the UN at some point. We'll have peace and prosperity without them.
Thank you. Thank you. これからますます私たちインターナショナル Cpac は力を強め、団結を強め、皆様方ともに素晴らしい世界を作っていきたいと心から決意しています。
So I want to make this world a better place through these international Cpacs. We want to work hand in hand with all of you and everybody across the world that values freedom. So let's make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless Japan. God bless America. God bless all the world. Thank you. ありがとうございました。
예, 지금 이제 일본 대표가 이야기하는 내용은 지금 일본 쪽에서는 계속해서 그 메타버스 플랫폼을 계속 소개를 하고 있습니다. 지난번 올랜도에서도 그랬고 이번에도 홍보 부스를 통해서 메타버스를 소개를 하고 있는데요. 그 메타버스를 통해서 전 세계의 보수주의자들이 다 같이 소통할 수 있는 그런 환경을 좀 만들겠다 이런 이야기를 좀 하고 있고요. 그것이 일본이 가지고 있는 기술력으로 전 세계의 평화를 위해서 기여하는 방법일 것 같다. 뭐 이렇게 설명을 했습니다. 그런데 이 이야기가 재미있는 게 그것을 통해서 결국에는 뭐라 그럴까요? 그러니까 이 전 세계의 보수주의자들이 만약에 메타버스를 통해서 대화하고 모여서 이야기하는 그런 날이 온다고 하면 결국에는 UN이라는 조직 필요 없는 그런 세상이 될 것이다. 뭐 이런 이야기를 하니까 여기 그 관중들이 아주 환호하는 기립박수를 치는 그런 모습을 좀 보았고요. 지금 UN이라는 조직이 제대로 된 국제사회 질서를 유지하는 조직이 못 된다라는 비난을 많이 받아오고 있기 때문에 그런 것 아닌가 뭐 이런 생각을 좀 잠깐 해봅니다. 일단은 일본 측 대표의 이야기를 좀 들어보았고요. 다음 순서는 빌 해거티하고 고든 창이 나와서 Caging the Red Dragon, 그러니까 중국을 어떻게 압박하고 속박할 것인가에 대한 이야기를 나누게 되겠습니다. 고든 창은 동아시아 지역의 전문가로 알려져 있는 인물이고요. 빌 해거티 의원은 테네시주의 연방 상원의원입니다. 그리고 한반도 정세에 대해서도 아주 깊은 지식을 가지고 있는 이 아시아계를 잘 알고 있는 상원의원인데요. 해거티 의원과 고든 창, 이 중국에 어떻게 대응해야 될지에 대해서 무엇이라고 이야기할지 관심 가지고 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Hi there, Cpac. How are you today? Dear friends, dear fellow conservatives, ladies and gentlemen, and I will stop here because the Hungarian constitution and of course nature do acknowledge only these two sexes. So dear ladies and gentlemen, it's really wonderful to be here in the great state of Texas, and I know that you say if a man is from Texas, he will tell you, and if not, why embarrass him by asking? But I will tell you, I'm a Hungarian, and you may have heard that this year's Cpac Hungary went
예, 제가 지금 순서를 약간 착각을 했었는데 지금 이제 헝가리 시팩의 조직에서 나오셨고요. 지금 일본에 이어서 헝가리 시팩의 이야기를 하고 그리고 그 다음에 이제 멕시코 시팩에서 나와서 그쪽 지역의 또 이야기를 전달을 해줄 거고요. 그 다음에 이제 말씀드렸던 중국을 어떻게 속박할 것인가에 대한 이야기가 진행이 되겠습니다. 헝가리 스펙은 지금 현재 해외 조직으로 생긴 스펙 중에서 가장 마지막에 생긴 것으로 알려져 있고 올해 이 달라스 행사에서 처음 선을 보였는데 상당히 의욕적인 그런 모습들을 좀 보이고 있습니다. 한번 직접 얘기 계속 들어보시겠습니다.
Every dream. So there is so much in this name, Cpac. It represents the best aspirations of all men and women. To live free, to work hard, to make our own fortune, to worship God according to our own traditions, to protect our homeland, and to raise our family as we see fit. This is what Cpac stands for, isn't it? And we are here today because we believe in the ancient values of the West that made our civilization the greatest, freest, most prosperous enterprise in the history of mankind. And those values are the very opposite of what socialism has to offer. Trust me on this. I'm a Hungarian, I know. We lived under bloody communist oppression for 4 decades, and everyone had to shut the hell up. That was the original cancel culture on steroids. So we know. And our long struggle for freedom, including the revolution of 1956, has made us resistant to ideological oppression. Dear fellow conservatives, I really know that being a Texan is a state of mind, but being a Hungarian is also a state of mind. We Hungarians have lived in Central Europe for over 1,000 years, and we choose Christianity and we choose the West. But in the 20th century, we had to suffer under both the Nazis and the socialists. And those were incompatible with the freedom-loving Hungarian national spirit, and we came out of the last century feeling a revulsion to all sorts of socialism, national and international as well. And imagine our horror when 30 years after the Iron Curtain was brought down, we had to realize that a new kind of Marxism was on the verge of subduing Western civilization and plotting an assault on our liberty once again. In Hungary, we say that a communist never disappears, he just changes disguises. And that's what we objectively see nowadays. A new Marxism has infiltrated all walks of our lives as a master thief. It wears many cloaks. Depending on what seems most effective, it appears as BLM, the cult of Vogue, critical race theory, or gender ideology. And what was once known as progressive is better called by its true name, Marxism. Regardless of which disguise it presents itself in, the aim is always to take away our freedom to love our country, to love our flag, to be proud of our history, and to worship God. All in the name of this muddled concept of egalitarianism that they call equity and political correctness. Dear friends, this postmodern variety of socialism undermines the very foundations of Western civilization. They seek to deconstruct the family, our past, demolish our national pride, to subvert the great heroes of our states, and to cut us off from our cultural roots. They destroy our national morale, and the West, where we are obliged to feel shame over our history and past greatness, is left strategically weakened and essentially defenseless in the face of foreign threats. So in that sense, liberals also strike a blow at our security. And of course, these liberals dreamed of an end of history. They promised us that there will be no more war, no more conflict. Kumbaya. How did that work out, may I ask? I live right next to the bloodiest war since the Second World War, and there is no end in sight. As a terrible war of aggression is waged against the Ukraine, we in the West are experiencing the worst economic, financial, and energy supply crisis perhaps in living memory. And the left's attacks on our history and our pride have left us confused and unprepared to deal with the current crisis. Fashionable claims about the irrelevance of borders and of nation-states have been exposed as shallow myth, although President Donald Trump put it that a nation is not a nation without borders. And the West's self-inflicted condition of historical amnesia has encouraged it to disregard the salience of geopolitical realities. So in short, the new left's cultural domination has left us in a confused and weakened state, one they created quite deliberately. Ladies and gentlemen, the only way out of this profound multidimensional catastrophe is peace. But for it to be again genuine peace, we need conservative victories at home. Because only the right can lift us up from our crippled state. We need strong conservative movements in all our Western nations. The world is changing, and our countries need to meet new challenges and win new contests. This changed world will either be dominated by a new, confused Marxism, and to tell the truth, it doesn't much matter if it comes from the East or the West, or it will be led by us, conservatives. Only the right can offer our nation's strengths, dignity, common sense, and realism. That is why it is crucial for us to work together internationally to make the liberals' nightmare true, the international cooperation of conservative national forces. And this is where Cpac and the fantastic job by Matt, Dan, and the ACU team have done matters so much. It has allowed us to share with you the Hungarian conservative success story, and this is how Prime Minister Viktor Orbán could offer you his recipe for success at Cpac Hungary and here in Dallas a few days earlier. Please keep in mind what he told you. We should never play by the liberals' rules. So in my country, in Hungary, the right has built a work-based society with low taxes, strong support for families, firm defense of our national borders, a dignified foreign policy based on national interest and pragmatism. All of this is possible in every Western nation, but for that to happen, we need to work together to end socialism here, to end socialism in Europe, and to end socialism everywhere. Please do not forget what President Reagan advised us. We win, they lose. So do not mess with Texans, do not mess with Texas, do not mess with Hungary, for the family, for the God, for our homelands. God bless America, God bless Hungary, God bless all of you.
예, 지금 이제 헝가리 Cpac 대표의 이야기를 들었습니다. 헝가리는 지난 40년간 공산치하에 있었기 때문에 어느 누구보다도 자유를 억압받는 것이 무엇인지 잘 알고 있다, 이런 이야기를 했고요. 중요한 이야기가 BLM이든 젠더 이데올로기이든 뭐든 간에 그들이 가지고 있는 것은 진짜 그들의 진짜 이름은 막시즘이다. 마르크시즘이 그들의 진짜 이름이다. 이런 이야기를 했습니다. 그리고 평화를 위해서는 보수주의가 승리해야 된다 이런 말도 했고요. 자, 멕시코 Cpac의 이야기 한번 들어보겠습니다.
Buenos días. I'm so happy to be with you today. You are a beacon of freedom and hope for the entire world. But before I begin, I want to say that I'm a proud Mexican. Un mexicano muy orgulloso. I am a proud Mexican. And as a Mexican, I have to tell you that I love tacos very much. Me encantan los tacos. But let me be clear. First lady, breakfast tacos do not define who I am or who Mexicans are as a people. It is our faith, family, and hard work that define who we are. Today, I want to call your attention to what is happening in Latin America. My friends, Latin America is burning, se está quemando. The destructive fire of socialism is quickly spreading throughout the region, putting at risk democracy and fundamental freedoms in numerous countries. While autocratic regimes in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela continue to repress their people and violate and deny their most basic human rights, radical socialist leaders and governments have taken over in Argentina, Bolivia, Colombia, Chile, Honduras, Peru, and sadly, even in my own beloved Mexico. These new socialist governments are all committed to a cultural Marxist agenda. They foster social confrontation based on race, religion, gender, and economic differences. Their goal is to destroy the Judeo-Christian civilization of Latin America, imposing a new order that seeks to redefine the human person and undermine the natural institutions that are essential to preserving a stable and free society, family and church. They also want to diminish and weaken our sense of patriotism and love for our countries. They tell us that there is nothing to be proud of in our history. To them, the legacy of the last 5 centuries in the Americas is one exclusively of racism, injustice, and environmental degradation. And to correct this, to reset the path our nation has taken, they argue we must adopt a series of radical progressive policies, including the legalization of abortion, gender ideology, extreme and unscientific environmental policies, so-called racial equity, and redistribution of wealth. In Mexico, for example, they have imposed abortion. And the way how they did it, it was very similar to what happened here in the United States. They did it through the Supreme Court of Justice. But you know what? Just like in the US, we will fight hard to reverse this ruling. We will work hard to elect politicians who are pro-life, leaders like President Trump, who delivered on his campaign promises and appointed conservative judges to the Supreme Court and ensured the Roe ruling was reversed. Congratulations. The Marxist strategy to impose radical views is based on co-opting democratic institutions, canceling and marginalizing anyone who disagrees with them, and limiting and taking away fundamental rights like freedom of expression and religion, parents' authority over their own children, and the right to private property. Some of these socialist governments are also encouraging massive migration to destabilize the region. In fact, a corridor of terror from Panama to the US-Mexico border has been created, where migrants are victims of all sorts of crimes. This is a terrible humanitarian crisis, my friends. Child trafficking is one of those crimes that is made easier by the massive migration flows. It is a modern evil that affects both Mexico and the US, and that requires that we join forces to fight against it and to end it. And I believe together we can end this nightmare. Today, not far from here, at the border, people are being sold. Women and children are being sold for work, for sexual exploitation, and even for organ trafficking. Just think, today, by the time this conference is over, 57 children will disappear in Mexico, destined to be sold for sex. 57 every day, 21,000 a year. Enough is enough. God's children are not for sale. We cannot remain oblivious to what is happening. We must raise our voices and call out this horrible tragedy. Sadly, America, under this current administration, seems not to care about what's happening in the region. They don't care about children's freedom. On the contrary, they have abandoned those who stand for freedom and democracy in Latin America while supporting the radical left. Biden continues the process of normalization of relations with the repressive communist regime of Cuba, negotiates with Maduro to buy oil from Venezuela, and cozies up to leftist extremist leaders like the new president of Honduras. So, to confront this advance of these destructive forces this year, after the November elections in the US, we will be holding the first ever Cpac Mexico in Mexico City. This will be the first Cpac in a Spanish-speaking country in Latin America, and will draw the most important conservative leaders from the region. It will be a unique opportunity to build partnerships among defenders of freedom throughout the hemisphere, so we can come together in a united front against those who want to impose socialism and wokeness on the countries of the region. It will be like something you have never seen. We will engage in a dialogue together. We will work together to come up with conservative solutions to the challenges our countries face. We will pray together. We will visit the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. We will celebrate the victory of the November midterm elections. And yes, we will also have tacos together. The best ones, I guarantee it. My friends, they're trying hard to impose their globalist socialist agenda on us. But we will not let that happen ever. Because we know that the people, the majority of the people of our country, the majority of the people of our country is with us, are with us. Let's continue to fight for freedom. Let's move forward, and let's make America and Mexico great together. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, hermanos. We are not just neighbors, we are brothers and sisters. God bless America, and God bless Mexico.
Get daily news, politics, and culture the establishment media ignores right off the press. offthepress.com.
탈모 샴푸. 머릿결은 포기해야 되나?
더나 플러스 모르나?
66가지 자연 유래 성분과 영양 성분으로 힘있는 모발의 세정력, 머릿결, 두피 건강까지 빠짐없이 다 잡았다. 자연을 담은 탈모 샴푸 더나 플러스.
더나 플러스 탈모 샴푸 미주 출시 기념 특별 세일. 500ml 샴푸 2통과 앰플까지 89불. 가까운 판매처에서 만나세요.
잊지마! 공석 탈모엔 더 나나나.
수소수는 우리 체내의 활성산소를 줄여 항산화 및 노화 방지, 피부 미용, 독소 제거, 당뇨 및 면역력 개선 효과에 탁월합니다. 알카하이드로의 수소 알카리 이온수기는 1100ppb 이상 수소를 함유하는 대한민국 최초 수소수 생성 특허를 보유하고 있으며 알카리 이온수를 생성하는 대한민국 의료기기 인증 제품입니다. 수소수 정수기 알카하이드로 404-989-2000번 404-989-2000번.
저 안드레스 투자의 답을 드리겠습니다.
Founder and CEO Free Space, John Willis, and your moderator, Larry O'Connor.
Morning. Good morning. All right, they're in a good mood. Excellent. All right, we have problems, major problems, but we also have solutions. And the solutions don't involve the government, it involves us empowering ourselves and fixing our problems, fixing our country. That's what this debate is really about. Are we debating, though? I mean, the big question is, what should we be most afraid of? The government intruding on our health care, our personal medical choices, our own faith-based medical choices, or should we be more concerned about the government intruding on our free speech and our free expression and the freedom of the press? I mean, they're both pretty crappy, guys.
They are.
Yeah, so which is worse? Let's start with health. Mike?
Well, health is a huge part of our economy. It's a huge part of each one of our family budgets. Almost always it's the next highest cost for a family next to their mortgage. But, you know, I don't want to dump the headline that they called us in on, but, you know, it's yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
John's fight with big tech and his adventure, let's say, in what he's doing to give people opportunities is important, but so is ours with Share Healthcare. You know, what we have with Share Healthcare costs 1/5 of what the average cost for a family is or a single is of healthcare, and that's because of government control that we're able to just leap right over.
Yeah, I bet people are thinking, oh, we lost the Obamacare fight in 2010. That ship has sailed, and we lost repealing Obamacare with the vote in the Senate, and so it's over. But actually, the left, the socialists, they hate Obamacare because it's not full-on Marxism. They haven't quit, right?
Absolutely not. You know, we're the West Coast is, what I have is a healthcare sharing ministry. That's what it's called. It's a ministry, 501c3. The West Coast states are attacking it over and over. Larry, you might know, being at DC, that the Congressional Free Thought Caucus, which, believe this or not, there's 17 congressmen who say they're part of this caucus because they want to make sure there's no discrimination against atheists and agnostics. You know, I haven't seen anybody discriminating against them. But they have a bill to try to shut down healthcare sharing ministries. And what's a healthcare sharing ministry? It's just people choosing voluntarily to gather together to share one another's medical expenses in an affordable way. You know, ours, Share Healthcare, is $149 for a single, $249 for a couple, $349 for a family of four. You aren't going to find an insurance which has to be regulated by government. They don't have choice. Because it's mandated, you got to contract, all that sort of thing.
So Share Healthcare is a personal American faith-based resolution to government-managed regulated healthcare that overrides the actual regulation. You guys are not covered or
we're under regulation or over. It's like, okay,
yeah,
here's the row of regulation. I'm walking behind it. We're just not even a part of regulation. So because of that, we're able to tell people,
The money that you share with others doesn't pay for abortifacients. It doesn't pay for abortion. It doesn't change for changing Barbie to Billy.
You're not making nuns pay for birth control, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, exactly. I remember you fighting about that for a long time, Larry. You were very much on the forefront of that, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to get more into the details of that, but we got to flip over to our First Amendment's kind of important last time I checked.
I would say so.
All right, and obviously, can we talk about the big tech oligarchs in the back pocket or vice versa of our government and our elected officials? Everybody thinks that by not sharing the Hunter Biden story, that was really hurting the New York Post and maybe hurting Donald Trump. Explain how when that censorship happens, it's actually hurting we the people.
It's basically a suppression of information. And so when that Hunter Biden story came out, I believe it was January of last year, people were getting banned everywhere. If you copied that URL, pasted it onto Twitter, Facebook, wherever.
Oh wait, the New York Post article?
The New York Post.
No, that was late October. It was like 3 weeks before the election.
Oh, okay. No, there was another one that they came out with in January.
Oh, yeah.
That they were just banning everywhere.
Who can keep track?
So banned, Larry hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. But yeah, the information suppression that we see in big tech, and I think everyone that's in attendance has been victims of it. If it doesn't fit a certain narrative that the left and big tech are trying to throw out to the general public, then it is suppressed. I mean, you see it with Project Veritas, with a lot of the stuff that they've been releasing.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all over, and if it doesn't fit that narrative, they shut it down. And what that does is that prevents the truth to actually get out. And I think what we're seeing here in society is truth is being rewritten. Definitions are being changed all over because big tech, they control all information. They control all the distribution of that information. And that's a lot of power that they have.
So you got banned.
Oh, yeah.
For funny memes.
Yes.
Very funny memes, by the way.
Extremely funny.
Yeah, and instead of, so now when a lefty gets banned or when their rights are taken away or so-called, they like start screaming and say, the government has to do something and we got to make another law and we got to say, no, you just stood up and said, screw this, I'm going to create Free Space Social. Yeah. Tell us about Free Space Social.
So we launched Free Space last year as a direct result of the conservative purge. When Trump was shut down all over, and then we saw countless influencers, content creators, and regular Joe Blow Americans just completely silenced. We were sitting in our office up in Frisco at the Star, and we were sitting there looking at each other going, we have the ability to launch a social media platform like this. What the heck are we waiting for? And so we literally, and I kid you not, we said a prayer, and we said, God protect us as we do this.
Hallelujah.
And we went forward. We pulled the trigger. Within 3 weeks of making that decision, 3 weeks, we were live.
Wow.
And since then, I mean, we were at Mar-a-Lago with the president. We've done a lot over the last year or so with Free Space, but it's not just a free speech platform. We also want to champion small businesses. We want to give people the ability to get health insurance, to get health coverage, to have the ability to do banking with a bank that's not going to cancel you, to be able to scale your own small business or big business, whatever it is, without having to deal with rules that change advertising every single day that you see on big tech platforms. We want to be able to be a tool or an instrument for you, not the other way around where you are making us money by us selling your data to government agencies. That's not how we roll. That's not how we're going to do things.
So, I mean, the premise here is what's more dangerous, the government intruding on our own personal choices and especially intruding on our free religious choices with regard to health care. Versus the government intruding along with their pals in big tech on our free expression. It sounds like the root of the problem is the same here.
Absolutely.
It's the leftists who are trying to control all these.
You know, with healthcare, you know, John's a family man, has a bunch of kids, and when his wife's in labor, she's not saying, I sure hope I get the right information on social media, right? But if we don't have access to social media, people won't really know what opportunities there are out there, like share healthcare, or like all the others. And by the way, John, we're not insurance. I'm the chief legal counsel. I got to keep making sure people understand that.
Just bill me your hours.
With both of them, it's do we have the freedom to make the choices of our own, or does government have the mandate to us?
Right.
Have we become subjects again as opposed to citizens?
Yeah.
And that is the root for both of us, and the enemy on both, the antagonist, let's say, is the government.
So when Obamacare was passed, you personally, as well as many of the people that you work with, you made sure that health share programs were exempt from all of that, right?
Right. I had a small part in Obamacare. I've helped write the legislation in a lot of other states, but the federal one I can't take too much credit on.
I got you. All right.
But healthcare sharing ministries are exempt under the Affordable Care Act because they knew in passing omnibus legislation they had to have a conscientious objector clause, essentially.
All right.
And so they plugged that in thinking there's only a couple Anabaptist groups, a couple Mennonites, few Amish here and there. And lo and behold, there's a whole lot of Americans who joined with those Amish and Mennonite.
Right.
Our shared healthcare began with old German Baptist brethren.
It turns out there were a lot of patriots who didn't want to be forced to pay for birth control for men.
Yep.
Imagine that.
I'd say that weird. That puts it pretty succinctly there.
All right. And then share healthcare specifically. Can you, in a thumbnail, because I know we hear about these, shared healthcare ideas. How exactly in a thumbnail does it work?
Larry, when you and your family join shared healthcare, which I'm sure you'll want to after this, you'll get a bank account, a personal individual bank account in your name at Lime Bank in Bolivar, Missouri. It's a real live bank, big bank, branches, all that sort of thing, but it's also digital online. So your money will go directly into your bank account. That bank has a proprietary algorithm that you can punch a button and the right money goes among all the members into your account when somebody in your family has a problem. So the healthcare provider calls us up and says, got this bill. We say, okay, for Larry's $100,000 bill, since we can pay you in 24 to 48 hours, what sort of discount will you give us? And we're getting right now literally a 61 to 65% discount. We don't pay 61 to 65%, well, that's our discount.
That's the discount.
Because we have medical freedom, financial freedom, religious freedom, and the healthcare providers are appreciative of that as well. Because the hospital, which wants their money, gets it fast, and they say, yeah, if we don't have all this dumb paperwork, we'll take it.
Something tells me the government and the insurance companies do not negotiate those kind of discounts.
No, they don't.
And deliver money to the healthcare.
Because they
hate you guys, right? I mean, I shouldn't say hate. They want to remove you from being alive and not exist. But it's out of love and care for all of us. Right. Yeah. All right.
But it also allows the healthcare provider, if he wants to give you, with the various waves of COVID we keep coming around, if he wants to give you hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, he can. If you and your doctor decide, no, you don't want to, you don't have to. And since we aren't insurance, we aren't regulated, you can go anywhere in the world you want, Larry, and if you're with a licensed medical professional, your health care is shared. It doesn't matter where you are.
Hold on a minute. So let's say you get COVID-19, God forbid. We're all going to get it, right? And your doctor prescribes a drug that Anthony Fauci doesn't approve of. You guys are going to pay for it anyway. Well, not you, but through the health.
And the doctor gets to make the decision. He has medical, we're getting referrals from doctors. I mean, how many doctors refer somebody to insurance?
Hold on, doctors get to make the decision with their patients?
And we need John to publicize that. Well, not even if they don't publicize share healthcare, when John is publicizing freedom, that benefits us, because anybody getting freedom gives more freedom to everybody else around.
It sounds like, Mike, you're telling me, yes, with share healthcare, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor.
And if you don't like him, you're not stuck in the network where he is.
I'm going to make a note of that. All right, so I get sick, I like my doctor, I keep my doctor, I get prescribed hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin or whatever it is. My doctor says I should take it. You guys say, well, it's not our business, so I get that. Now I want to go to my Facebook or my Twitter account and I want to tell my story. And I can't, because I get canceled, I get deleted. In fact, I get suspended because I dare say that my doctor prescribed a drug that worked for me because somebody in Silicon Valley decides I can't. That's where you come in, right?
Yeah, we don't care what you post. If you want whatever medicine you're taking, great. You know, it's not our job to police your opinions, your ideologies, or what you do on a daily basis. We will police things that are illegal, of course, or pornographic, but it is not my job to tell you what to think. I mean, we are a platform. We are not a publisher, and big tech forgets that. And you know, backstage, I saw Nigel Farage. I'm sure many of you know him, the leader of Brexit.
And wearing a really great tie today, too.
Fantastic tie. But he's a leader of Brexit, and you know, we were talking backstage, and we're like, you know what? In the coming months, we're going to start a movement that hasn't been done before, where it's time to finally exit big tech. So Free Space is going to start a movement, right? Free Space is going to be at the head of this movement called Big Texit, and we want all of you part of it. It is time to get rid of big tech. We are all addicted to Facebook and TikTok. They don't like us, folks. They are trying to suppress us. They're trying to do everything they can to control us. Why the heck are we still using them? You will love Free Space. Download Free Space now. It's in the app stores, both on Google and Apple. And then in the next 2 months, we're going to be releasing Free Space 2.0, a completely brand new platform that has all the features that you love about social media and none of the tyrannical bullcrap that you hate.
And Free Space is free.
And it's free. Yeah.
All right, so Big Tech Exit.
Big Texit.
Big Texit. Born in Texas, at Cpac, Texas. I think we've solved the debate. The problem is the government and big tech oligarchs trying to control our lives and tell us what we can do and what we can say. The solution is Free Space Social and Share Healthcare, and the winner is we the people.
Hallelujah.
Done! Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Are struggling, yet the political discourse in Washington doesn't reflect that fact. Could this be because our national conversation is being manipulated? Leftist big tech and the liberal media dominate and regulate our public speech. Conservatives can't let the left control the next frontier of social media technology. The Liberty Metaverse challenges the liberal stranglehold on the public square. 93% of Cpac attendees agree that conservatives need to be active in the metaverse to counter the left.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next topic, energy insecurity. Please welcome Vice President of the Heritage Foundation, James Carafano. From the great state of Texas, Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne. From Alabama, Congressman Gary Palmer. And your moderator, from Epoch Times, Joshua Phillip.
All right, thanks for being here, everyone. Energy used to not be one of, the most interesting topics. It was, maybe people work on policy, don't get me wrong. We're interested in it, but it's something now that's impacting all of us because energy is now about national security. Energy is now about whether you can afford to heat your home. It's about the survival of your family if you're in Europe, even talking about where things are heading. It's also about socialism. So this has become something that's hitting every single home, every single person's, what you pay at the pump, everything. And Texas, where we are right now, just had a real experience with this. And Beth, I want to talk to you first about this, that, really Texas had these, failures with natural energy We started with renewable energy, and we saw what happened. What exactly happened with Texas?
Yeah, well, you saw last year, last February, we had this huge demand on our grid, and we weren't able to handle it. And for several days, there were hundreds of thousands of people that were out of electricity when it was freezing cold outside. We had the exact opposite experience right now. We have hit 25 different records so far this summer on demand on the grid, and it has worked out very well. But there's a reason why. We have reliable energy, thermal energy. Now, Texas is the leading state for renewables. 37% of our energy use is from renewables. But it failed us. Wind failed terribly this summer. In fact, there were examples when we had the most demand that we were only getting 2% of the expected use from wind, 2%. And yet the government super subsidizes our renewable energies, making it detracting from the actual reliable energy or thermal energy was what has saved us so far, which is coal, which is natural gas, nuclear. If we didn't have those energy sources, almost half of our state so far this summer at peak times would be without energy. And you want to talk about life or death. I mean, you guys are here in Texas right now in August. A little warm out, right? Imagine what would happen if we did not have air conditioning, if you did not have the use of fans. And what has happened is because we are super subsidizing the renewable energies, when they come on market, when they start bidding, it completely distorts the market. It pushes coal and those reliable thermal energies out of the marketplace. And as a result, we are dependent on the renewable energies, which can fail. And that's exactly what happened in February. We need to make sure that we're fighting against that.
Now, we'd assume that when something like that happens, you learn a lesson and you change things. And we would assume that maybe they put safeguards in place to make sure this doesn't happen elsewhere. Gary, I know you're on one of the commissions overseeing this. Have they put systems in place to make sure this doesn't happen again in other parts of the U.S.?
They're really pushing more renewable systems that are going to put us in a very difficult position. The North America Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, puts out a report. Last summer, they put out a report and said that the single biggest threat to our power grid, which, by the way, our power grid is not a completely connected grid. It's a patchwork grid, and the whole grid, even the patchwork, requires a consistent base load. And they said the single biggest threat to the grid is not cyber attack. It's the changing the mix that fuels the grid. In other words, the conversion to renewables. This summer, they put out a report saying that they anticipate blackouts, not in California, where this is a regular occurrence, but in the Midwest, from Louisiana to Minnesota, because of the conversion to renewables. And Beth just made this point without really elaborating on it, but the thing that saved Texas during the polar vortex was they had backup systems. And this renewable grid will not function because it does not produce a consistent base load of power. The only way it will function is that if they have a backup, and that's going to be natural gas.
So they had systems to prevent this. They knew it was coming. They didn't do it. Not only have they not fixed the problem, but they are continuing to do over what caused the problem in the first place, and we're about to face it again, is what you're saying.
Well, ERCOT has fixed the problem. I want to make sure that we understand that ERCOT has fixed the problem, but what we see with this administration is that they're continuing their war against states and against these grids being able to be sustainable. That's what we have found.
Right. So, I mean, James, I know you're at the forefront of a lot of this, and people are kind of wondering what's going on. I mean, is this intentional? Is this accidental? Like, what's really going on with America's energy right now?
Yeah, great. First of all, the first thing I got to say is, I love Cpac. No, really, you guys are awesome. This is like better than the Oscars, because nobody gets punched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the one thing, directly to answer your question, there are three things you cannot lose on. When you go forth from here, there are three issues where you cannot fail. It's not optional. One, of course, is election integrity, because if you lose on that fight, you lose your political rights forever. The other one, of course, is peace through strength, because if this nation cannot defend itself, then China and Russia and Iran will eat our lunch. The other issue that you cannot lose on, and it is non-negotiable, is the issue that they've just been talking about, energy. Because if you lose on this fight, you will starve.
And the policies that they're putting in place, they don't care about physics or chemistry or economics. They have an agenda which is based on a transformation that is it's a political agenda. It's not an energy agenda. It's not an environmental agenda, and it's absolutely not a national security agenda. It's about political power. And so they want to seize political power at any price, and the price will be the prosperity and the security and the future of American generations, because you cannot power a modern society without electricity. And this is the historic opportunity you have to push back. Because 2 years ago, the climate debate was done. We were all on the green path to la-la land. And because of really the war in Ukraine and the incredible disruptions we've seen on energy prices and energy supplies in the last couple of years, we have reopened this debate. And the reality is we only, if you want a better environment, if you want a better economy, if you want to defeat their political agenda, you only do that by insisting on policies that are going to deliver reliable, affordable, abundant energy. And they fundamentally, whatever you take away from here, know that what you have to have is America has to become an energy dominant power. And that is going to be achieved with our oil, gas, and nuclear industries. And if we don't push them out and let them do their thing, we will lose and they will win. And that's what the fight's really all about.
Well, and on that point too, weren't we one of the leading powers on this just a bit ago? What happened, right? I mean, America was one of the top countries, the top oil producers. What happened?
We have inexhaustible resources of oil and natural gas. And for two reasons. One, the shale fracking revolution give us literally inexhaustible resources. And you're talking about this, not the Oscars and not getting hit. Every American, when they go to the gas pump, is getting slapped. Every time you go to the grocery store, you're getting slapped. Energy is the most inflationary component of the entire economy. There's an energy cost for everything you do. Everything you've come in contact with today in terms of goods and services has an energy cost. And you're getting hammered by it, by this administration, and there's no reason for it. We not only have the ability to provide for our own needs here in America, but we literally could have stopped Russia if we had been the principal supplier of energy to Europe.
And that brings up another point. I mean, we're here in Texas again. When I think Texas, I think cattle and oil. In Texas, of course, going the opposite way. They're going, I don't know what they're doing to the cattle right now. But with the oil especially, we see them building wind turbines. They're not working. Things are not working as planned. And I assume this is some kind of intervention, as you mentioned. They're subsidizing a failing industry.
Well, this is the problem that we found with this administration, is they are demonizing the energy industry. They're absolutely demonizing the U.S. energy industry. So you've got great plants in Texas that are able to actually provide for our needs. But you have a government that from day one, Biden has declared a war on it when he started, when he stopped the Keystone Pipeline expansion, got rid of 11,000 jobs, and our ability to be able to produce. He's also now added regulation upon regulation, building upon the Obama regulations to basically make it almost, it doesn't make economic sense to be able to invest. Then you've got the financial markets, when if they want to expand, if they want to produce, which they're being demanded right now by the Biden administration produce, but they can't get funding because the Biden administration has basically said there will be no future for you. This is as far as the left is willing to push this. They are willing to use taxpayer dollars to crush industry, to bring us to our knees, all for their ideology. This is exactly what this is about. It is about control, it is about power, it is about making America weaker. When you've got a president who has to go all the way to Saudi Arabia because they won't return his phone call, and he still comes back and they says, we're not going to be able to produce anymore. Now he's having to go to places like Venezuela, where, by the way, if their interest was legitimately on clean solutions, legitimately on that, why are we not looking at U.S. product? Why are we not doing that? Why are we not forcing that more? Why are we going to places that make dirtier energy to be able to provide our need? When Trump was president, when we had the last administration, we were energy independent. Not only that, but for national security, we were able to provide liquid natural gas to other countries peacefully. that we had, without having to use military, we actually had a lot more influence over the rest of the world than we do now. That is a direct result of Biden's prices. They're willing to have people die in order to push their ideology that don't care.
Well, one of the big things, too, I mean, you know, Trump was warning when he was still president, he was warning that Russia's going to gain control over energy and it's going to use it to bring Europe to its knees. Now, Biden's blaming not, of course, his policies on what's happening with energy, but he's instead blaming Russia on what happened, the Russia that they gave our energy markets to through uranium and other deals. But James, you know, talk about the national security element of this and how Russia ties into it. I mean, is Russia the real cause of this, as we're being told? Like, what's really driving this?
Well, first of all, can I have a show of how many people in the audience have liberal friends? Wow, that's shocking. All right, so I want to give you two arguments for your liberal friends on why our energy policies are better than theirs. You already heard one from the Congress folks talking about we are strangling our own economy and we are diminishing ourselves. You brought up the point of national security, which is spot on. It's not really Russia imposing their energy will on the world. It's us and our Yahoo allies who essentially have demobilized in energy competition to make ourselves more dependent on people that hate us. And it's not just oil and gas, it's also renewable energies, because right now this administration is insisting that we buy more solar panels from China, even though they know that those solar panels are less effective and they're made with slave labor, and they're actually making us more, not less dependent on our enemy. So we get the national security argument. We get the America. Well, here's the two other arguments which I don't think our liberal friends understand and which you need to explain to them. One is Joe Biden is diminishing the entire world. This is a humanitarian catastrophe because we are telling countries around the world that you cannot have electrical grids, that you cannot have a modern economy. We have women in countries that get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and spend their entire day carting water to their houses because they have no electricity. And this is green energy is the new imperialism. We are imposing a view on the world, and we are impoverishing them, and we are calling them poverty and horror and chaos and war because they're not green enough for us. And that's just wrong. And your liberal friends ought to understand that. Right. And the other thing they will understand is, you know, we love this blue dot too, right? Because this is the only blue dot we have. I don't know about you guys. I'm not sure Elon Musk is going to come through for us. You know, I don't think I'm going to get a condo on Mars. And the reality is if you want better environmental outcomes, if you want cleaner air, cleaner water, the best contribution that a country can make to the environment is to be free and rich. I mean, we've been doing the Index of Economic Freedom. It's true. We've been doing the Index of Economic Freedom and Heritage for 30 years, and invariably what the data shows is the richer a country is and the freer the country is, the better environmental steward it is for its society. So rather than impoverishing America, Joe Biden ought to be out and trying to make us richer, because then we will help build a better blue dot. And the thing I love about this, is this solves all the problems. It solves our economy. It solves our national security. It makes us the strongest power in the world. And it will actually, in the end, make the blue dot a better place to live.
There's a couple of books that you really ought to take the time to read, and they're written by hardcore liberals. One of them is Michael Schellenberger's book, Apocalypse Never, and he makes the very points that James is making. The impact not only on this country, but also on the world, and particularly on low-income people. Energy is a pathway to prosperity. You've got over 800 million people who have zero access to electricity worldwide, and there's about 3 billion who have very limited access to it. What's gone on in Europe, and in Great Britain in particular, when they've converted to renewables, they've had a tremendous increase in the number of what they call excess winter deaths. These are people who are not freezing to death, but they cannot afford to keep their homes adequately warmed in the wintertime and still be able to afford their food and medicine. In the winter of 2016-2017, they estimate that 17,000 people died just in Great Britain. There's 17 times more people die from cold-related illnesses than heat. You're being fed a bunch of bull, just to be honest. And this is Texas, and you know what bull is. The other thing that you need to understand is how unreliable renewables are. You could take one next-generation nuclear facility and set it on a site of 640 acres. To generate the same amount of power from a wind farm would take 70,000 acres. That next-gen nuclear facility has a life cycle of 100 years. You can imagine what the technology will be like in 100 years. A wind farm has a life cycle of about 30 years, and each turbine starts losing generating capacity after about 10 years, and the blades are not recyclable. They're burying them in giant landfills in Wyoming, and the solar panels, by the way, will make us reliant on China. If you think it's a problem being with Biden going over to Saudi Arabia with a gas can in his hand, wait till we become reliant on China. And the solar panel farms have a life cycle of about 30 years, and you cannot recycle the panels. This is a pathway to disaster, particularly for low-income people and the middle class. This administration, with their energy policy, with their economic policies, are determined to destroy the middle class. How many of you in here are middle class? How many of you want to be middle class or better? Your future's at stake right now.
Well, one of the big scams right now, which I've been hearing about, America is one of the leaders on energy technology. The energy industry could be more efficient, it could be cleaner, coal even, nuclear even, because we have the technology and we are better at it than the next 4 or 5 different countries in the entire world. America could lead the entire world on energy, and it's not happening. I know you're working on this too. What is stopping America from leading world energy with the technologies that are in fact better?
Right.
It's the war on policies. It's the Biden administration's war against U.S. energy. That's what's killing us. And before that, prior to that, it was Obama's. It's amazing though. We're up here talking pragmatism. We're talking facts. We're talking realism. You don't see that on the left. Right. And I'll give you a perfect example just how divided and just how nasty some of these folks are. We did a poll in this area. So I represent Texas 24, which is right here in North Texas. We did a poll. Last year I talked to a number of businesses. They were trying to hire people. So we did a job fair. We had one of the most successful job fairs that we have ever had in North Texas. We literally had thousands of people come out. We had over 250 businesses participate. We just did a poll, and we asked folks, do you think would you be more or less likely to support me knowing that we had put on a job fair in North Texas? Overwhelmingly, most people said great job, and they supported it. People who identified as strong Democrats said that they would be extremely likely not to vote for me because we had a job fair. Because we were helping connect people get jobs, they would not support me. Think about that, what that means. You've got folks who identify themselves as strong Democrats who don't want people getting connected with jobs, that don't want people being independent, don't want people being able to self-sustain. They are looking at control, they're looking at running your life, and they want everybody 100% dependent on a huge, large, bloated federal government. That's where we are right now. That is what we are trying to fight moving into November, because right now we don't have a stopgap. We don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the presidency. I am fully convinced that we're going to be able to have the House if we continue talking about the issues that matter to the American people. And energy may not be sexy, but it absolutely matters to every single person in this country.
There's a couple minutes left. Gary, last statements.
I was talking to a representative from Walmart, and he told me that for the average family earning $50,000 a year, they would, before the Biden administration, they'd spend about 20% of their income on food and fuel. Now it's almost 50%. Wow. Walmart just laid off 7,000 people. The energy policies of this administration are inflationary. They're destructive to the economy, and long term, they're destructive to our national security. And we're determined to do something about it.
James, last statements.
Yeah, can you guys wave to my mom? All right, I'm also going to hold every one of you accountable. If we don't fix this issue, we are going to lose the America that we have. So walk away and know that, right? I think we all agree. All right.
And Beth, how can we not lose the America we have?
Get out there and vote, obviously. I'm talking to a room who knows that. You're going to get out and vote. Vote for strong candidates. And if you yourself aren't going to work for a candidate, then become a candidate. Also, do not be shy about your opinions. Share these facts. Work around it. Talk to the media. If we don't have a voice, you see what happens. We have strong solutions to these things. I always say, let's be happy Republicans. Okay, we got a lot to be happy for. We live in the best country in the world. There's a reason why. It was not free. We all fought for it. We have had generations and generations that have fought for it, and it can be lost in a single generation. It seems like it's almost been lost in a single administration.
Right.
Fight for it, love it, talk about it, and be very proud of being an American.
On this issue. Right.
Thank you all.
That was awesome. Great.
한미애국교회 창립 2주년을 맞아 우리 가정은 물론 국가의 존립조차 위태롭게 만드는 성평등에 대한 모든 진실을 알리는 자리를 마련했습니다. 차세대를 겨냥한 정체성 혁명과 그 배후를 주제로 김태호 목사와 세라킴 사모가 평등법의 실체와 오해를 샅샅이 풀어드립니다. 행사는 8월 14일 주일 오후 3시 휴스턴 한인제일교회에서 열리며 유튜브로 생중계됩니다. 절세의 지혜를 나눠드립니다. 이상회계법인
고객과 직원을 지켜주는 스니즈가드. 지금 주문하세요. 배너앤프린트.
한 곳에서 시작되는 안정된 미래 선우앤선우 종합보험.
깨끗한 물로 샤워하세요. 알카하이드로 정수 필터 샤워기. 팬데믹 위기 속에서 인터넷 서비스 기업으로 성장한 bannerandprint.com.
각종 인쇄물, 배너, 스티커, 간판, 스니즈가드까지 필요하신 모든 작업을 두고두고 마음에 드시게 해드립니다. bannerandprint.com.
전국 어디서든 웹사이트로 주문하시면 원하시는 디자인을 빠르게 출력해 신속하게 배송해 드립니다. bannerandprint.com 678-274-7275.
안녕하세요. 이상회계법인의 이상엽입니다. 30년 동안 아틀란타 한인사회에 봉사한 역사와 경험을 바탕으로 여러분들의 세무 회계 관리와 재정 은퇴 계획을 상담해드리고 있습니다. 부자 되세요.
우리 한인들의 정체는 무엇입니까? 우리가 자손들과 살아갈 땅임에도 불구하고 언젠가는 떠날 방문객처럼 살지는 않습니까?
우리는 이방인이 아닌 이 땅의 주인이 되어야 합니다.
우리는 반드시 이 나라에서 좋은 평판을 만들어야 되는데 이 나라와 우리 이웃과 우리 지역에서 도움이 되는 사람들로 부각이 되어야 됩니다.
좋은 이웃되기 운동이 여러분 곁에서 함께합니다.
Social media technology. The Liberty Metaverse challenges the liberal stranglehold on the public square. 93% of Cpac attendees agree that conservatives need to be active in the metaverse to counter the left.
Congratulations, AARP. Over $1 billion. Wow. That's what AARP was paid in corporate royalties in a single year, totaling over $9 billion through the last decade. Most of it derived from United Health, one of the nation's largest health insurance corporations.
예, 지금은 좀 전에 보셨던 거는 이제 에너지 문제가 얼마나 이제 중요하고 심각한지에 대한 얘기들이 있었고요. 지금 이제 보실 내용은 Saving the West라는 이름으로 나이젤 파라지라는 분이 나와서 진행을 하게 됩니다. 이분은 지금 보니까 얼굴 보시면 어쩌면 알아보실 수도 있겠어요. GB 뉴스 GB 뉴스의 쇼 호스트인데요. 지금 이제 세이빙 웨스트라는 제목으로 봐서는 아마도 이 미국 서부 지역에 이 좌경화되어져 있는 좌파가 지금 점령하고 있는 서부 지역을 어떻게 구할 것인가, 뭐 이런 이야기를 좀 하게 될 것 같습니다. 재미있는 얘기가 나올 것 같은데 기대해 보셔도 좋을 것 같습니다.
Good morning. Hello, Dallas. How are we doing? It's great to be here. It's great to be allowed to travel across the Atlantic again. I couldn't come last year because of all the ludicrous restrictions, but I'm here, I'm back, supporting Cpac as I always do, and I'll be at Cpac Sydney in a couple of weeks. And I just want to say, from all of us, let's just give a big round of applause, huge thanks to Matt Schlapp and the team for the great work they do. And what an important time it is. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we are under attack. Under attack as never before. And that threat is not external. No, not even Nancy Pelosi's one-woman attempt to start the Third World War is the biggest threat we face. And it's not Putin. The biggest threat we face is from within. The biggest threat we face is the fifth column inside all of our countries that is attempting to destroy the family unit, attempting to destroy our Judeo-Christian culture, attempting to destroy our constitution, attempting to destroy our history, our pride in who we are and what we are. And the way they're doing it is predominantly through the educational institutions, the universities, the colleges. Kids are not being taught critical thinking. Kids are not being taught there are two valid approaches to a problem. Our children are being indoctrinated. Our universities have become madrasas of Marxism, and it's got to change. It needs to change. And the same goes for the media. Now, somebody well known to all of you coined a phrase a few years ago about the media. Do you remember it? He did it so well too, didn't he? You're fake news, fake news. And he was right. He was right. White privilege did not exist as a term. You didn't hear about white privilege 10, 20 years ago, and yet mainstream media now ram it down our throats every single day. That's just one little example. Our kids, from a young age, are being told, if you're black, you're a victim. If you're white, you're an oppressor. You should be ashamed of your family, ashamed of the history of your country. None of this is bringing societies together. None of this is aimed at harmony. This is not accidental. What is going on, and it's happening in the US, it's happening in Canada, it's happening in the UK, it's happening in Australia, it's happening in New Zealand. It is the English-speaking countries that have got this terrible virus, worse than anywhere else in the world. This is a Marxist attempt to break Western civilization, a Marxist attempt to destroy everything that we are. And we are going to fight back hard against it, aren't we? But you know, part of the problem, though, is our problem. Part of the problem is that our conservative parties, our conservative movements, have allowed all of this to be done. Basically through cowardice, through fear,
People do not want to be called nasty names. And too many of our elected representatives from conservative parties right across the West are not actually conservatives. You've got your rhinos. But hey, didn't those primaries go the right way last week? Wasn't that great? And we're the same. Boris Johnson, elected as a conservative, but chose to govern as a liberal. And in Australia, Scott Morrison, a conservative prime minister who locked Australia down in the most vicious way, barely did a single recognisable conservative thing, and of course he's gone on to lose the election. You see, the moral of the story is clear. When conservative parties stop being conservative, guess what happens? They lose. They lose elections. And that, I think, is where the opportunity is here in America. Because be clear about one thing. To save Western civilization, this is the battleground. Because if America falls, we all fall. But I know I'm talking to perhaps the most important group of people that have ever assembled in one room. Because you are the foot soldiers. You are the foot soldiers in this battle on behalf not just of America, but on behalf of the whole of the free world, to save everything our forebears built, designed, and defended against the world. The responsibility is yours. Are you ready for that responsibility? Are you going to go out and fight and win? Good, because we can do it. We can do it. However mad, however crazy the whole thing may seem, don't think the vast majority in your country or mine think we ought to refer to pregnant person. No, it's a pregnant woman. Don't think the majority out there in the country, outside of the big cities, outside of mainstream media, outside of the modern day corporates, I mean, they don't think that 6'3" Leah Thomas, rated 454 in the world as a male swimmer, who suddenly decides she's going to be a woman and starts winning races, they may think that's just great in the Oval Office, but the middle of America doesn't think it's great. And here's the thing. The silent majority is still on our side, and it's through them we can win. And I think if you study history, you'll see the pendulums can go in one direction for much further than many would want, but in the end, that pendulum comes back. And I think we're beginning to see a little bit of common sense creeping in. And I think we're beginning to see, and I mentioned it already, but those primaries last week, we're beginning to see, Steve Bannon last night said, and isn't Steve doing a great job? What a fantastic job. Great job. The energy down in Radio Row, unbelievable. Steve said something last night that I think was right. He said, Carrie Lake is the future of this movement. And I think he's right. I think he's right. Something really important is happening. New people are coming in. And I believe, and you may say to me, well, what right do you have as a Brit to give us your opinion? But I'm going to give it anyway. But to stand up against the establishment, to stand up against the deep state, to stand up against all these things the globalists try and impose upon us, takes a man or woman of exceptional courage. And I believe that you, in the conservative movement in this country, are very lucky to have a man who since he left office looks like he's lost about 20 pounds. The weight of the world is coming off his shoulders. His nominees are winning the primaries. And I believe Donald Trump is the man to go out there and fight on behalf of America and the Western world. I do. I do. A man of incredible courage, of leadership and of foresight. If he was there, I don't believe the Ukraine war would be happening. If he was there, so much that is going wrong wouldn't be. And I'm reminded of a speech he gave at the United Nations in 2018, when he said out loud to the German delegation, he said, by going green and making yourself wholly dependent upon Russia, you're making a big mistake. And you know what? They all laughed at him. Well, to use a line I used in the European Parliament the day after Brexit, they're not laughing now, are they? As energy is rationed. And that's the madness. That is the madness of these policies. The madness of going green without a thought. The madness of taking us down a rabbit hole where we hate ourselves and we hate our country. We can turn this around in all of our countries, but it takes leadership, it takes courage, it takes belief, and it takes an understanding that the way to win is to find the millions of people out there who in their hearts agree with us, but who in the past have not turned out to vote. That is how we won Brexit. We won Brexit by getting people to vote who don't normally vote, to make them think this matters. And I think the integrity of your country, all that Western civilization has stood for, that's enough, in my opinion, to get mums and dads out to vote in November this year and heading in to 2024, because they're beginning to understand and realize what is at stake. So much that was built and defended at a cost of great treasure and much blood is under threat. And we're not, are we? We're not going to stand idly by and see this happen. We're going to turn this around. We need you, the foot soldiers. We need good leadership. And we must believe, and we do believe, that out there in our countries, there is a big majority for common sense, a big majority that believes in the country, a big majority that we've got to get out there and reach. And that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to do my bit. I'll help Cpac, and isn't it great to see Cpac going all around the world? Amazing. What a message. So I want to say thank you. We're all looking forward to the big speech at 5:30. That's going to be something else. But I want to pay tribute to all of you for the work you've done already. The bad news, folks, is the real hard work has only just begun. There is more to do. Are you ready for that fight? Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to come and speak at Cpac. It always is. You're great people. Thank you. Thank you.
탈모 샴푸. 머릿결은 포기해야 되나?
더나 플러스 모르나?
66가지 자연 유래 성분과 영양 성분으로 힘있는 모발에 세정력, 머릿결, 두피 건강까지 빠짐없이 다 잡았다. 자연을 담은 탈모 샴푸 더나 플러스.
더나 플러스 탈모 샴푸 미주 출시 기념 특별 세일. 500ml 샴푸 2통과 앰플까지 89불. 가까운 판매처에서 만나세요.
잊지마!
꽁석 탈모엔 더 나나나.
수소수는 우리 체내의 활성산소를 줄여 항산화 및 노화 방지, 피부 미용, 독소 제거, 당뇨 및 면역력 개선 효과에 탁월합니다. 알카하이드로의 수소 알카리 이온수기는 1100ppb 이상 수소를 함유하는 대한민국 최초 수소수 생성 특허를 보유하고 있으며 알카리 이온수를 생성하는 대한민국 의료기기 인증 제품입니다. 수소수 정수기 알카하이드로 404-989-2000번 404-989-2000번.
저 안드레스 투자의 답을 드리겠습니다.
한미 애국교회 창립 2주년을 맞아 우리 가정은 물론 국가의 존립조차 위태롭게 만드는 성평등에 대한 모든 진실을 알리는 자리를 마련했습니다. 차세대를 겨냥한 정체성 혁명과 그 배후를 주제로 김태호 목사와 세라킴 사모가 평등법의 실체와 오해를 샅샅이 풀어드립니다. 행사는 8월 14일 주일 오후 3시 휴스턴 한인제일교회에서 열리며 유튜브로 생중계됩니다.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been such an amazing Cpac. Wasn't Nigel Farage absolutely amazing? It's going to get even better later this afternoon when President Trump speaks. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you think President Trump was the best president of our lifetimes? And how many of you think Joe Biden was the worst president of our lifetimes? Joe Biden hasn't even been in office for 2 years, and already he's doing so much damage to our country. We have the highest inflation we've had in decades, eating away at the value of every dollar that we earn. Violent crime is rising in our cities all across the country. Illegal immigrants are surging across the border, and the federal government is doing nothing to secure the border. Schools are indoctrinating our children, our teens, young adult college students with woke, radical, divisive agenda based on critical race theory and critical social justice theory. And our military seems to be more focused on pronouns than on supporting and defending our Constitution. Joe Biden's weakness on the world stage has invited aggression and led to the biggest war in Europe since the end of World War II. It's no wonder that, according to a July Monmouth poll, 88% of Americans think we are on the wrong track. 88%. Thanks to the wisdom of our founders, we have the opportunity to change course. Because our founding documents say that our government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. In 94 days, we will have the chance to show that when it comes to the radical leftist agenda, we do not consent. Americans can choose to make a change to get us back on the right track. In the United States of America, elected officials get their authority from the consent of the governed. And if there is no election integrity, there is no consent. We all know elections have consequences, and we've learned election integrity has consequences too. Our liberties are only as secure as our elections. Let me repeat that again. Our liberties are only as secure as our elections. You remember when Ben Franklin left the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a lady what kind of government the delegates had given us. And he answered, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." An answer and a challenge. And at Tea Party Patriots Action, since our founding, and especially in the last year and a half, we have taken up that challenge. We've been working on election integrity in concert with our coalition partners like the Conservative Partnership Institute and Cleta Mitchell. We've traveled the country working at the grassroots level to build a permanent election integrity infrastructure with statewide coalitions and local election integrity task forces to train poll watchers and poll workers, to teach our fellow citizens how they can get involved to make a difference, to have honest, secure, and transparent elections. Because our liberties are only as secure as our elections. Does this make a difference? It does, absolutely. Let me give you an example. In Georgia, in the primaries this year, the statewide Election Integrity Coalition was able to place 1,500 poll watchers and 300 poll workers. And in DeKalb County, Georgia, the Election Integrity Task Force, headed by Marcy McCarthy, worked to build relationships across the political aisle. They befriended election workers. They recruited poll workers and poll watchers, and they were prepared in case any issues arose. And when an issue did arise, they were ready to take action. There was a problem with one Democratic primary race. It was actually the candidate who caught the mistake. You see, she realized that in her own precinct, she had no votes for herself. Now, she knew she had voted for herself, so she thought there should be one vote for her. And her husband said he voted for her, so she thought there should be two. Now, he might have thought he could get away with not voting for her and no one would ever find out, but that's highly unlikely. So she should have had two votes in her own precinct. The machine count was wrong, and she started asking questions. The Election Integrity Task Force was in place observing, and they volunteered to help if needed. Leadership in both political parties set aside their differences and worked to resolve the problem. In the end, the local election board decided to do a hand count of this particular race. And election employees and volunteers worked throughout the entire weekend on Memorial Day to get this race correct. And in the end, this candidate, who was originally in third place, wound up being the first place finisher and was entitled to go on to the runoff. And today, she is a Democratic Party's nominee for this county commission race. Now, I do want to be clear, there was an anomaly in this particular race. There was a candidate who withdrew from the election, and we suspect the problem was somehow removing that candidate completely from the ballot created the problem. The point here is this. In the end, in that race, the certified election results were correct. There was no need for a lawsuit, no need for a court case. And since, the activist here made a difference. The certified results in that race, that one race, were correct, and the people in that community could trust the outcome of that race. These activists are ordinary Americans just like all of you here today. They got involved and decided to make a difference. And you can make a difference too. You can help by starting an election integrity task force in your county if one does not exist, or join one that already exists. You can sign up to be poll watchers, or better yet, work the polls as an election worker or judge or inspector of the elections. You can befriend and begin building a personal relationship with your election administrator or supervisor or clerk of elections. You can learn how the election process in your county works from beginning to end. Tea Party Patriots Action has the tools to help you do this at transparentelections.com. Transparentelections.com. Our American experiment in self-government is 246 years old. Through world wars and civil wars, through depressions and boom times, through terrorist attacks and viruses and terrible responses to viruses, Americans have continued to pass the torch of liberty from one generation to the next. Our founders were brilliant and wise men. They bequeathed to us a republic and the tools to maintain it if we have the courage and the integrity to do the hard work to keep it. They recognize that our rights flowed from our Creator to us, and then government is merely a man-made construct created to secure those God-given rights. Belief in our Creator was fundamental to our founders' concept of self-government. And it doesn't stop with them. Ronald Reagan understood our Creator's relevance in more modern terms. During the course of his campaign in 1980 with his only debate with Jimmy Carter, he said, "The American dream is not that every man must be level with every other man. The American dream is that every man should be free to become whatever God intends he should become." We are here today because we want to make a difference with the same courage and conviction our forefathers had when they took on the biggest empire in the world and won. With that same spirit Ronald Reagan taught us, grateful that we still live in an America where we are free to become whatever God intends we should become. And take note, all of you who love and cherish this country and are concerned because our country is on the wrong track, you are not alone. Liberty will not die under our watch. We will never give in. We will never stop fighting. Our children and grandchildren are depending on us to dig deep, be brave, and trust in God, to protect them from those who seek to corrupt their hearts and minds, to secure our elections so that they still matter, and to secure the blessings of liberty for their generation. And we will succeed. We will keep this republic. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
좀 전에 연설을 하셨던 분은 지금 이제 티파티 페이트리어트라고요. 티파티 애국자들이라는 모임을 만들었던 공동 설립한 인물이고 지금 조지아주에서 선거 청렴성 운동을 지금 펼치고 있는 활발하게 펼치고 있습니다. 19개 도시에서 매일 이 사람들 유권자들을 교육하고 지금 캠페인을 진행하고 있는 분이고요. 아까 설명에서 들으셨던 것처럼 지난번 예비선거 때에 이 선거 감시원, 그러니까 이 완전히 풀뿌리 운동이죠. 진짜 좋은 모습인데 선거 감시원을 1,500명 이렇게 지금 모아서 자원봉사 활동을 시켰고 폴 와처만 해도 300명을 동원을 해서 지금 선거가 안전하게 진행되는지 감시하는 그런 역할을 했다 이렇게 얘기했는데요. 상당히 훌륭한 역할이었고 이제 또 흥미로운 토론이 진행이 될 것 같습니다. 맷 게츠 하원 의원이 나오고 크리스 밀러도 나오고 한번 좀 이 내용도 재밌을 것 같은데 계속 지켜보시겠습니다.
I'm Kevin Kiley, and I come to you from the once great state of California. Any Californians here? Any former Californians here? I'm one of 19 Republicans in our state assembly. Democrats control 3/4 of the legislature and hold every statewide office. For years, this supermajority caused California to decline until our current governor took office and brought that decline to a total free fall. For the first time in history, more people are moving out of our state than moving in. U-Haul has literally run out of trucks. We used to be the state where anyone could get ahead. The California dream. Now, we're the state everyone can't wait to leave behind. That's the California tragedy. And if Gavin Newsom has his way, it will be the American tragedy. He said it himself. The day of Joe Biden's inauguration, Newsom sent Biden a letter. He called California, quote, a model for the nation. Now, I was born and raised in California, and I've spent 5 years in our legislature. I've sued Gavin Newsom and won. I've led a recall against him. I've written a book called The Case Against America's Most Corrupt Governor. Please just multiply around you. Your child's public education costs $26,000, yet he still isn't taught to read. He's taught a lot of other stuff. In this model for the nation, you can work hard for decades, yet still not afford a down payment on a house. You live in fear that any day your lights will go out or your community will burn down. You're told to take a shorter shower as water flows abundantly into the ocean. In the progressive utopia of California, you walk down streets that double as restrooms and injection sites. You watch hammer-wielding looters take over stores in broad daylight. You're advised by local police that it isn't safe to go out wearing jewelry. Gavin Newsom's California is not a model for the nation. It is a warning to the nation. It is a warning about the corruption of the modern Democrat Party and the radicalism of its controlling faction. It is a warning that the same political playbook that's ruining the greatest state in the country now threatens to ruin the greatest country in the world. I am running for the United States Congress because we simply cannot let that happen. And we certainly can't let it happen at the hands of Gavin Newsom himself. You see, we have a very different model for the nation. Our model for the nation is the one that created this nation, one with freedom at its foundation. Educational freedom, putting parents in charge of their kids' schooling. Economic freedom, recognizing the right to earn a living as fundamental. Medical freedom, respecting the personal autonomy of each individual. Religious freedom, putting worship and fellowship beyond the reach of any bureaucrat. This is the model that is sending Californians to Texas in record numbers. A mass exodus from blue states to red states across the country. And it is the model for an overwhelming Republican victory in the midterm elections. My friends, in just 3 months, we can put the brakes on Biden's train wreck of an administration. We can remove the Speaker's gavel from Pelosi's hands for good. We can realign American politics for a generation to come. And we can turn the page on this dark era of government control by lighting a new spark of liberty. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Congressman Ben Cline.
Hello, Cpac. I'm Ben Cline from the Commonwealth of Virginia, the great battleground state through which a Republican majority in the House of Representatives is going to take hold this November, and once and for all, we will retire Nancy Pelosi from the speakership of the House of Representatives. It is great to be back at Cpac. I always appreciate the opportunity to get out of the swamp of Washington, D.C. and be around so many like-minded conservatives, or as I like to say, real Americans.
I want to thank Matt Schlapp and the ACU for inviting me to speak. Cpac is absolutely one of my favorite weekends, and I'm honored to be able to be with you during this time. This is our opportunity to show folks how fed up and frustrated we are that Biden, Pelosi, and the squad continue to pull our country further and further to the radical left. And we're going to keep that progress going. We're going to keep that pressure on. And while the D.C. elites living in the northern part of my state have tried to make us the California of the East, our new governor, Glenn Youngkin, and the rest of our state have successfully stopped this lurch to the left. In an omen of things to come nationally, they're building the Commonwealth into an economic powerhouse, restoring law and order, and reinserting parents into their children's education where they belong. But with less than 100 days left until the election, it's going to take hard work from passionate conservatives like all of you to follow Virginia's lead and renew America. Together, we can defeat the leftist agenda of Nancy Pelosi, of AOC and the squad, and the one-party rule that has nearly destroyed all that we hold dear. Every year we hear that the next election is the most important of our lifetime. Without sounding like a broken record, with our nation standing on the edge of a crumbling cliff, I'm here to tell you this is the most important election of our lifetime. We're dealing with a Democrat Party that constantly pushes the envelope of bankruptcy, both morally and financially. These folks who think that a boy is a girl, believe the border is secure, think the retreat in Afghanistan was a success, ignore the Supreme Court, and revel in the fact that gas prices have gone down even though they doubled under their failed Green New Deal policies. It's little wonder that they can't define for you what you have known for a while. We are in a recession. Families are struggling. Their paychecks can't keep pace with the massive rise in costs for groceries and gas and most everything in between. Yet President Biden and his party twist themselves like a pretzel to avoid any responsibility for this calamity. And right now in the U.S. Senate, they're doubling down on their inflation-causing policies. Enough is enough. We need you to step up through your support for conservative candidates all over the country, from California to Virginia, including the Commonwealth, where we have some great candidates that are going to help us take back the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. The left tells us that we're bad people because of what we believe. They try to tell us that because we support the Second Amendment, because we stand up for the unborn, because we promote fiscal responsibility, because we believe in traditional values, and because we love our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that we are somehow less than. Like you, I am sick and tired of it. I will not back down. I will fight alongside my colleagues in the Freedom Caucus, and I urge you to join me. Are you with me? Are you with me? Great. Let's restore the America that Ronald Reagan said was that shining city on the hill. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless Cpac. God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from North Carolina, Bo Hines.
Well, how are we doing today, guys? It's great to be here at Cpac. My name's Bill Hines. I come from the great state of North Carolina. I just got to ask you guys, though, are you not excited to have the greatest president in the history of the United States here with us this afternoon? Folks, when I jumped in this conservative movement, I had a lot of people ask me, why are you doing this at such a young age? And the answer for me to that question was really quite simple. I wasn't going to sit back and watch radical Marxist leftists destroy our country any longer for the next generation. You know, from the time I was a little kid, I've heard politicians come around every single election cycle, and they've made us many promises. Let's look at the last few decades of leadership at the highest level. Bill Clinton made promises, didn't deliver. George Bush made promises, didn't deliver. Barack Obama made promises. Not only did he not deliver, he tried to tear apart our country. He tried to rip apart the fabric that binded us together as Americans. Then we had President Trump. What great leadership that was. And now we have Joe Biden, who makes promises that he can't remember. So this is where we are as a country, guys. This is a result of failed promises for decades at a time. We're $30 trillion in debt. We have biological men competing in female athletics. We have crumbling infrastructure. We have rampant illegal immigration. We're watching the left attempt to strip us of our rights every single day. It's time that we draw the line. It's time that the next generation of conservatives go on offense. We will take back this country by storm with new leadership. Leadership that stands up and says, you know what, we're going to protect your First Amendment right to speak openly and honestly in whatever space that is. We're going to protect your Second Amendment right to bear arms, protect your children, your families, and if necessary, defend against tyrannical government. We're going to ensure that our children are protected in schools, not sexualized in our communities. It's about time that parents have a say in what their children are taught in classrooms in the United States. You know, one thing that frustrates me about Congress is that a lot of times we look at the word compromise as being a good thing. I want to make one point here today. Compromise does not always equate to progress. We're at the point where we're compromising ourselves out of our country. We're losing who we are. We need fighters that will go to Washington, D.C. and defend our values at all cost. I'll end with a quick story for you. My dad told me this story quite a bit as a young man. It's about a farmer in a rural community, and he walked crop rows every single day. And he strolls into a local diner and he says, hey guys, I just want to let you know that in a few weeks from now, I'm going to take my wheelbarrow, I'm going to walk across the canyon on the outside of town on a tightrope. And everyone laughs at him, except one guy follows him home. He watches him practice, and he comes back in the diner the next day. He says, guys, I'm telling you what, I've seen this guy practice. I've watched him walk these crop lines for decades. He's never once damaged a crop. He's going to do it. And they all laughed at him. He goes, you know what? I bet each one of you $100 you can get across that canyon on a tightrope and a wheelbarrow. So he lines up, takes people's bets. Sure enough, he goes out to the farmer later that afternoon. He says, farmer, I just want to let you know that even though everyone else is laughing at you, I'm with you. The farmer goes, really, you're with me? He goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, I bet every single person in town $100 you're going to get across that canyon on a tightrope. The farmer goes, yeah, but do you actually believe I can do it? He goes, what do you mean? I bet everyone $100. He goes, yeah, but do you actually believe? He goes, again, I'm going to ask you, do you believe? The guy looked at him and said, yes. He goes, and how about you get in the wheelbarrow when I walk across that canyon? The reason that story resonates with me is because we have to get in the wheelbarrow together this November. All of us have to come together to retire Nancy Pelosi once and for all. It's going to be a massive red tsunami this year. We're going to win back this country one heart at a time, one mind at a time, and one vote at a time. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, former acting United States Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Miller.
Hi, my name is Chris Miller. I am not the former Department of Defense guy. I'm from West Virginia. And when I was 10 and a half years old, I told my dad I wanted a pair of Air Jordan tennis shoes. When he found out they cost $125, he told me to get a job. He told me the truth. You want it, you got to work for it. And I've been working ever since. That's the way it is in Appalachia. I'm from West Virginia, and we have always had to do more with less. And that principle is interwoven in everything that we do. Now, I'm 43 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a father. I'm a leader in my business and community. I'm a boxer, and I'm a bison farmer. And I'm here to tell you the truth. We've lost our damn minds. If you consume what the news feeds you, you will wind up nutritionally, financially, and morally bankrupt. And it's as if it's all designed to make us weaker as men and as women. Pleasure is not purpose. Fame is not meaning. Hookups are not relationships. Scrolling all day is not living. Instagram is not real life. Victimhood is not strength. Planned Parenthood is not health care. Printing money is not an economic recovery. The mainstream news media is not always the truth. The good thing is there is hope. There is hope right now by a new generation of people tired of this woke mindset. We are free thinkers. We are entrepreneurs. We like to build things. We like to accomplish much. And we want a government that doesn't create barriers to justify bureaucrats' existence, but rather one that provides a tangible product to taxpayers and makes their lives better and treats their citizens like their customers. Imagine that. We are coming, and we are pissed off. But first, I need to report a theft. The left took something of ours. They took our words, and they changed the meaning. But I'm here to take those words back. Diversity. We are the party of diversity. The diversity of thought emanated by a free people. Equality. We are the party of equality. The equality of opportunity open to all people, based solely on merit and character, and nothing else. Inclusion. We are the party of inclusion, because it is us who believe that inclusivity is sewn in the fabric of God's heart, because all of us have value and purpose in His creation. The greatest men of history chose to build cathedrals that they would never see completed in their lifetime. They didn't seek to build these things because they wanted their names imprinted on bridges and courthouses. We must be bigger than that. They chose to build for the sake of future generations. This is what is needed for decent civilizations to thrive. Who among us now will embark on the labor of decades necessary, if not us? So it behooves everyone in this room to talk to as many of their friends and family as possible and tell them to go out and vote. Tell everyone. Because if we don't, this nonsense will continue. And America can fall. Rome fell, after all, because they weren't paying attention. Now, unlike many on the left, I don't claim to have all the answers. I get reminded by my wife each day to remain humble. I look to my Christian faith for guidance in understanding the underlying moral principles embedded in our existence and their function, the light posts that guide our way. However, the other side, the left, they've done away with all limiting principles. No clear right or wrong, no better or worse, no objective morality, no clear male, no clear female. A vacuous philosophy that has led to America's current condition that can only be described as a pathological self-indulgence with no responsibility. America has got to start paying attention. Destiny right now is knocking on our door, to rectify this trend. There is still time if we all do what we must. We must speak the truth. We must not be censored, for free speech is the very mechanism of which our democracy functions. Thank you all for having me. My name is Chris Miller. I'm from West Virginia, and I'm here to speak the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Florida, Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Thank you very much, Texas. I am a Florida man, I'm an America First fighter, and I am proud to be Nancy Pelosi's worst nightmare in the United States House of Representatives. Being a woke-topian in America today just looks exhausting. You have to be aggrieved and insulted by everything. Someone forwards the wrong joke, you have to grab your pearls. Someone says something that's politically incorrect, which I have occasion to do. They got to throw you in Twitter jail, put you in the Facebook gulag. Well, you know what? We are proud to stand here as patriotic Americans. This is the greatest country on earth, and we will never let a socialist politician or a spoiled celebrity or athlete ever tell us something different. And when people get to talking now, you got to start by disclaiming all your privileges, right? Your white privilege, your male privilege. If you're tall, you might have a privilege. I think I have a Florida privilege. A few folks made it over on I-10. But you know what? That's all nonsense, because we are united by one American privilege that makes us proud and strong and prosperous. But we got these folks in power now that want to make us believe like a totally distorted version of reality. Like, they want you to believe that spending $400 billion more in the Anti-Inflation Act will actually solve inflation. All of the most accurate analysis says it will increase inflation. They want to tell you that if the economy contracts for 2 straight quarters, that's not a recession, of course. You just feel like it's a recession. To them, it's something different because they aren't negatively affected by the terrible economy they've created and the terrible choices that are made. I know the tide is turning. I know we will take power after the coming elections, but I don't want to win by default or disillusion. I want to be worthy of victory. I want to make sure we tell the people the truth. The truth is we are being invaded on our southern border, and it's not enough just to finish the wall. We have to deport the people who are not in our country legally. Truth is, the vaccine mandate hasn't made our military stronger, it's made our nation weaker. Truth is, we have to take on big tech. Truth is, we have to ensure that the American story is one that does not end with a declining president like Joe Biden. And we can do these things. My vision for Republican control of the Congress isn't going back to the days of Paul Ryan or Liz Cheney. This is Donald Trump's party, and I'm proudly a Donald Trump Republican. I'm voting for him in the straw poll, and I hope you'll join me. My friends, it's been a long, hot summer. We've seen Steve Bannon prosecuted, Donald Trump persecuted. We have seen our fellow Americans deprived of their liberties and used as political pawns in the D.C. gulag. But you know what? The season is changing. Fall will be here soon, and winter is coming. And when we get power, every committee becomes an oversight committee. Every corrupt deal that they've put together, we will expose and we will restore the great promise of this country. I hope you'll fight with me. Go to mattgaetz.com and sign up, and let's go get them.
Americans are struggling, yet the political discourse in Washington doesn't reflect that fact. Could this be because our national conversation is being manipulated? Leftist big tech and the liberal media dominate and regulate our public speech. Conservatives can't let the left control the next frontier of social media technology. The Liberty Metaverse challenges the liberal stranglehold on the public square. 93% of Cpac attendees agree that conservatives need to be active in the metaverse to counter the left.
AARP over $1 billion. Wow.
예, 맥 게츠 의원의 연설까지 보셨고요. 이제 오늘 오전 생중계에는 여기까지만 일단 진행을 하겠습니다. 저희가 이제 점심하고 텍사스 달라스에 왔더니 여기 또 애국 단체 분들이 저하고 또 엠킴 달라스에 온 것 환영한다, 뭐 만나자, 뭐 간담회자를 또 마련을 해주셔가지고요. 텍사스에 계신 우리 애국자분들도 저희가 잠깐 점심시간에 같이 만나 뵙고 그리고 다시 돌아오려고 합니다. 여기서 오늘 오전 생중계는 마무리하고 저는 이따가 오후 한 3시경에 다시 생중계를 다시 이어가도록 그렇게 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.